This is a video that wasn't going to be made in a project that wasn't going to be filmed. This is a 3-sided pew-pew bay, handheld. Basically, there's, I don't know, a 40 by 40 area. We're going to try to make it a little bit wider and maybe push it just a little bit deeper. We'll see how it goes. That wasn't in the cards last night. I wanted to get it roughly into place before we got rain, which is, I think, coming today. Welcome back to Bionic Life. We are on a dozer, and not just a dozer, but my brother's bulldozer, which is even better than owning a bulldozer. We are digging now it's going to be a pond. Initially, that wasn't the case. This was not supposed to be really a big project. It started out as a test hole just for the kids to dig with the excavator that we got last summer and just to fart around with it. And this wasn't intended to be a pond, but I wanted to expand my backstop for where I have a little pew-pew event. We also wanted to build a small handheld pew-pew bay. And that's going to take actually a lot of dirt because we're going to be able to shoot 3 sides. So I thought, well, we'll dig a pond. And we started probably a month ago when the weather broke. And I was using a little IHI mini excavator 35J, which is a 7,000, 8,000 pound machine, and shuttling the dirt with a bucket of a tractor because the dump trailer was too heavy and it was making too much in the way of ruts. Now, this is the first time I have ever run a bulldozer. And I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm a professional amateur when it comes to running a dozer. And it is impressive. I understand you're supposed to move dirt in slots when you're pushing long pushes. And I'm kind of have a long push here. But we have some weather, and the weather's been so messed up. I know what I'm going to show you is probably not correct because I had to take out one of my windrows to make it so that I could clear this hole out and make it so there was enough fall if we got a sudden rainstorm that all the water would drain into this lower sump area. We have a lower area that was excavated, and we pumped from there. And we've had to do that several times. Hole was a lot smaller. If this thing fills up with water, we're going to be pumping for at least a day, I would imagine, maybe 2, to get it down far enough where it can start drying out and at least take the skim of the slop off and get back to work on it. It may not be the way you're supposed to do it, and I understand that, and I would love comments because I have no idea what I'm doing. It just seems like you want some depth to the pond, and I have dealt with ponds that have cattails on them, so we have very clay-based soil. This is like almost all clay, and fortunately, since we have that, and from what I've seen with this little test hole over here, that it holds water to like nothing else. And it's better than a Dixie cup. And I want sheer walls in as many places as possible. And where they're not sheer, they're going to be abrupt rises so that we don't have too much in the way of cattails. So let's get started. Tell me in the comments if you're a pro running a dozer what I'm doing wrong, because I really would like to know what I can do to improve. that's a wrap for today, only because we're down to a quarter tank of fuel. I got to get fuel. I got to get some off-road. We're going to take a transfer tank, a 100-gallon transfer tank, and get some off-road. But if I can talk my camera person into panning over towards the progress, on the left here, I don't know if you can see my shadow, but that is the slot that I left intact. On the right, the wider area with the blue clay in the bottom, that is the area that I had to get a little bit deeper so that water would drain over into the far right. The hole over here on the right is a hole that we dug. We first got the excavator and I told my kids, hey, go dig. So they started digging. I wasn't sure what we were going to do with this hole, fill it in at some point. Then I realized, hey, I want to build up my little range that I have over here. And I wanted to build up this backstop. I host an event with a bunch of poo-poos, and this end needed to be raised up. And I ran out of dirt everywhere except for this little hole right there. My brother bought this dozer. It's a John Deere 450K. I think it's like an 18,000 pound dozer, roughly 6-way blade. It's pretty nice. It does quick work. Using the dozer, we were able to push out some of the dirt this direction, and it's actually to the west, and we were able to stack up the south end of that backstop, and that worked out really good. Did that in about probably 5 hours, 6 hours. This and that pile of dirt up there is actually going to get pushed beyond it. I wanted to get the, what is now going to be a pond, I guess, if it holds water. I'm thinking with all the blue clay that we have in the bottom and all the just tannish clay everywhere else, very few rocks, no gravel, I think it's going to hold water. I don't know if you can tell, but there's excavator teeth marks on the side. That held water like crazy. We were using a 2-inch pump from Harbor Freight to empty that whenever we would get a good rain. It'd take about an hour and a half to pump that out. A dozer definitely makes life a lot easier. The excavator worked fine when that's all we had, and I had, like I said, a little John Deere tractor. I was using my dump trailer, except the ground was so squishy for the longest time that it just made a mess. So I ended up just shuttling it with the tractor. It made less of a mess. So thanks for watching. Catch you on the next video, and hopefully this was not intended to be a pond video, honestly.